Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a great day. So I was watching a video on this financial channel that's kind of geared towards people that make stupid behavioral choices and decisions, which, let's face it, if I look at a good portion of my early 20s, that's kind of me. So every now and then I'll pop in to see what's going on. And in this video, they were talking about how to discuss salary at a job interview. And one of the people there kind of said, well, you may want to discuss this part during the second interview, not in the first interview. And he was also kind of saying, well, if the interview's not going too well and you ask about salary, that could be the end of the interview. And one of the things I wanted to just point out as an employer who's done many job interviews is, if you ask what the salary is, that is never going to be the thing that ends the interview. I have no illusions. I recognize that while we may be lovely friends in another life, that the reason that you're sitting in my office subjecting yourself to whatever questions I have for you instead of playing video games or doing something else is because you want some money. You're not showing up here for nothing, and the amount of money that you're going to be getting is of paramount importance to you. I understand that that is why you're here. So even if I thought, well, gee, he just asked about the money immediately, even if I thought to myself, I could maybe lie to myself and tell myself that's why the interview failed, that's not why. It's something else. There's no way in hell that you asking how much money you're going to get paid is the thing that is going to end a job interview. If that's the thing that ends it, you aren't getting that job anyway. And I think this idea that you shouldn't know how much money, or at least kind of an idea, by the first interview is insane. The idea that you could actually be going on to a second job interview and have no idea what it is that you're going to be making is equally crazy. So usually I give a range. There'll be a range that you have an idea of before the interview. And then once I can see your skill set in person, then I can tell you where in that range you fit. I no longer give specific numbers for job interviews anymore, because if somebody winds up being bad at it, I'm kind of pinned to that number. And I've had that come back to bite me in the ass before, and I'm not doing that again. But you'll have a range, like this job is 18 to 26. This job is 23 to 39. This job is 28 to 42 an hour, or whatever. There'll be something like that. And then when you show up, I will ask you to do a couple of things. Maybe I'll say, hey, here's a donor board. What do you think is wrong with this donor board? And can you tell me why you think that's what's wrong with it? Or I'll say, here is a really sticky customer situation. Can you tell me how you would have replied to this email? And I'll just kind of get a gauge of how you do the job. And that'll let me know where you fit in this range. And then I'll tell you what it is that made you fit in that range and why. And then we go from there. But you should know during the first interview exactly what you're getting paid. This idea that you shouldn't know that is insane. Now, if you don't think you're getting paid enough at whatever job that you have, there's also this idea of whether or not you should ask other people what they're making or wherever you're working. This can be sticky for a couple of reasons, because the reason that you may be getting a different salary than somebody else may not be the reason that you actually think. So if you're getting paid less than somebody else to do, quote, the same job wherever you work, what I would suggest you do is I would suggest that you go into the office and say, I know that there are people here with the same title as me that make this much money, and I want to know what it is I could be doing to live up to the standards that you have here so that I can be more valuable to this company. What is it that I would need to accomplish, that you would need out of me, in order for me to live up to the standards to get paid as much as this other person? And sometimes you may actually be falling short. Sometimes there's something that you may not be doing. There's a skill that they may have that you don't. There may be a zest for learning new things that the other person has that you don't. There may be an ability to deal with difficult customers that person A has that person B doesn't. And sometimes it may just be something else that's ridiculous. Like, let's say, I don't know, just to give an example of horrible management. Let's just say that, your boss decided to move to a new space right before the collapse of New York City and general civilization and the economy. So you have $8,000 or $9,000 more a month in expenses, and you don't have the new revenue to justify that. So, the person that you're referring to is a person that was hired when the expenses for the business were $8,000 or $9,000 a month less than they are now. So even though you do an amazing job, I can't pay you more money, and I can't lower the salary of the other person because that just fundamentally doesn't work. You cannot lower somebody's salary once they've had a set salary. It winds up completely and utterly destroying their morale. So what I can do here is I can commit to a series of bonuses where if profit is a certain amount, because you do an amazing job and you're good at what you do, I can give you this bonus every week or every month or whatever, but I can't commit to a raise until we're out of the financial water. You may have a conversation like that, or you may have a conversation like what I had at Model Sporting Goods, where they said, listen, the way that it's set up here, I don't have the power to give you a raise. It doesn't exist. You only get a raise if you get a different position. So even if the sales in your department are up by $80,000 in a month, I can't even give you another dollar. All you can do is wait for a position to open up. And even when it does, that's only going to be $1.75 more than you make now. And that position typically opens up once every 5 to 10 years. So what that does is that lets me know that regardless of my performance, or regardless of the company's financial performance, I'm never going to make more money. So what I need to do is find a different job. If you have that conversation rather than kind of storming into the boss's office and saying, quote, you are screwing me because I know that somebody else here is getting paid a different amount for, quote, the same work, it really takes away all the chances you have to have an honest conversation to figure out why that's the case. Because sometimes it could be that they just want to fuck you. And here's the thing. If you go in there in an honest way and say, listen, I want to know what it is that I need to do to live up to the standards that this company has, or to live up to the standard that you set for this so that I can make as much as this other person, you'll be able to tell very quickly when you engage in that way if the reason you're making less money is because your boss is a schmuck versus if there is a legitimate reason. And even if your boss is a schmuck, if you bring it to them in that way rather than just going into the office and saying, you guys are screwing me, there's a better chance that they correct it then and there and wind up paying you more rather than just saying kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Hardening into their original position. The last thing you want is for somebody to harden into their original position and say, well, screw you because of the way that you acted towards me. I'm going to do this just out of spite, even if I'm wrong. If you look at a lot of our political discourse now, you'll see that, sadly, that's the way the human mind works. So if there's a way to approach it where you're more likely to get the outcome that you want. And even if you don't get the outcome that you want, at least you'll know where you stand so that you know what you should do going forward. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll leave a link to that video down below. Let me know what you think of it, and I'll see you in the next one.